In today's weather, a few signs that it's summertime. Wildfire smoke up in Canada once again. Out in the Atlantic, we can see a little bit of Saharan dust, which will be making its way into the southern U.S. over the next couple of weeks. This is an atmospheric chemistry model from the Global Systems Laboratory. We can see the dust out here in the middle of the Atlantic, and looking at conditions over the next several days, that plume appears to move through the Caribbean and into the Gulf of Mexico. The last frame, that's going to be right here later next week. Not expecting really any major impacts with that dust, but it will make things a little bit hazy, and there's more on the way. Here's a look at the weather map early this evening. We're seeing numerous showers and storms on the East Coast from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, all the way down into South Carolina. Also numerous storms on the Gulf Coast, the sea breeze quite active in Texas and Louisiana this evening. Also a definite pressure deficit in the Rockies and in the western U.S. due to that intense heating, temperatures up to almost 100 in Wyoming, and still running about 114 at Vegas. We have had the monsoon start to ramp up, starting to see precipitation all the way from the Sierras into the southern Rockies. In the northeastern U.S., well, we do see a cyclonic circulation across Lake Huron, and that's dragging down some of that wildfire smoke. That's originated from northern Alberta and northern British Columbia. There's been wildfires around Fort McMurray in the tar sands district. Also, numerous showers and storms all the way from New York City down to Virginia. We have flood watches running through Saturday up and down the northeastern coast, all the way from Boston down towards Dover and Richmond. And you can see on this precipitable water graphic over 2 inches all the way up towards Massachusetts. The Weather Prediction Center is calling for a slight chance of excessive rainfall today across this entire region. 1 to 2 inches of rain are possible. In the southeastern U.S., flood watches all the way down the coast into South Carolina. You can see numerous thunderstorms in eastern North Carolina, and we do have a few flood warnings all the way from Hampton down towards Goldsboro. A lot of rain, torrential rain in these thunderstorms, the very high precipitable water making the precipitation processes very efficient. The coastal regions of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, all under the influence of the sea breeze. Some of this is going to be convective debris, such as from Houston northward, but we do have some active elements around San Antonio and out there in Louisiana. If we switch over to the radar imagery, there you have it. You can see that there is a decline in the activity, but still going quite strong from San Antonio to Del Rio and down towards Laredo. As we work northward, some severe storms in western North Dakota. And we can see some more elevated storms in eastern South Dakota, the Black Hills, into northeastern Wyoming. But the big story is the heat. There's some of the current temperatures as we record this. 100 degrees at Glendive, Montana, 103 at Buffalo, South Dakota, 101 at Rapid City, and 102 at Chadron, Nebraska. And as we mentioned, quite hot up there in the higher elevations of Wyoming, 98 degrees there at Sheridan with 99 at Billings. And this heat will be rotating gradually to the south. Denver already under the influence, 101 there. They're going to be hotter, and we're going to see hotter temperatures this weekend in Kansas. You think that 105 is significant there in Hill City? Well, we're expecting almost 110 for, I think, Saturday or Sunday. A multi-week heat wave continues in the southwestern deserts that finally appears to be winding down. An excessive heat warning covers virtually the entire southwest except for the higher elevations. Highs today were expected to be 116 at Phoenix and 116 at Las Vegas. And as we mentioned, the precipitation is really picking up in the western U.S. We do have red flag warnings in the Sierra Nevadas due to dry thunderstorms, lightning strikes, and gusty outflow winds. And we will see some of that throughout the Great Basin region as well. And not really much different in the northwestern U.S., wildfires breaking out across Oregon this evening, pushing a lot of smoke into the Ontario and Boise region. And hot there as well. There's the current temperatures. We were expecting 104 at Boise. Seems they have nailed that. Did they get any higher? No, they've been at 104 for the past couple of hours. Also, heat advisories pretty much from the Cascades all the way to the northern Rockies. Red flag warnings in eastern Idaho due to gusty winds and low relative humidities. And as we work our way into the Pacific, there's the North Pacific high, a little bit on the weak side, only 1029 millibars in the center. As we head up into Alaska, they are under moist southerly flow. And this is definitely an atmospheric river situation. So we have widespread stratiform precip, maybe some showers as well, but not very much effect in the eastern part of the state, looking at some very pleasant summer conditions. Out there in the northern part of Canada, looking pretty mild, temperatures rising up to almost 50 degrees at Rhea Point. As we go into the prairies, cooler weather. This is dispersing some of that wildfire smoke from the Fort McMurray area. That's going to be right here. That's where the tar sands are. A lot of fire problems there over the past few days. They do have air quality advisories in northern Alberta and Saskatchewan due to that wildfire smoke. And further east, heat warnings from southern Manitoba. You can see temperatures there, 88 degrees, all the way into Ontario. This entire area right there. Heat warnings also for the Maritimes. Looking at, let's see, about, it doesn't look all that bad, 80 degrees, but man, look at those dew points, 70. And that's kind of unusual for that area. They're looking for humidexes up to 100 degrees. Humidex, that's kind of like the equivalent of the heat index in the U.S. A little bit of good news, the 7-day tropical outlook is empty. Back on Tuesday, Colorado State University upgraded its storm forecast for the season in the Atlantic, looking for a very active year. They're expecting 25 named storms, almost double the normal average. That would take us into the Greek letters as far as Delta, if that verifies. And they're expecting 6 major hurricanes, double what we typically see. There's the current 500 millibar chart. This is a very important chart this time of year. We can use this to track the heat waves. We see a subtropical high centered across Utah. That puts California under a weak southerly flow, not really enough to break up the heat, but it will start having an effect as we go into tomorrow. And going into the weekend, you can see that that high shifts into Colorado. That will put most of the southwestern U.S. under this southerly flow, and that is favorable for monsoon-type conditions. Then early next week, going into midweek, we do see that high start to reestablish itself over the Four Corners area, so we will see that heat start to pick up once again, although not quite as severe, and we don't see that subtropical high centered over California and Nevada, and that was when it was really bad in that part of the country. Checking on the 250 millibar chart up at about 34,000 feet. We take a look at the jet stream patterns. We have one branch from Washington all the way up towards Churchill, Manitoba. Another branch coming up from Arkansas into the eastern Great Lakes. And most of the strong jet stream energy is out there in Newfoundland. You can see a little bit of that subtropical high there in Utah. Let's take a look at the weather going into next week. We can see it's going to be quite active in the northern U.S. There's a disturbance coming into the Dakotas for Monday. And the waves, the long waves, they do look rather high amplitude. So some parts of the country are going to get some anomalous weather. We tend to see those kinds of unusual weather events with highly amplified patterns, not so much with zonal east to west flow. And looks like most of this anomalous weather probably will be confined to the north central U.S., the Midwest, and the Great Lakes. So possibilities for things like severe weather, strong fronts, maybe some unseasonably cold weather, and a similar pattern out there in the Gulf of Alaska, the eastern Pacific. But for the time being, that'll probably affect mostly British Columbia. This may be part of an atmospheric river. I don't know. We'll see what happens as we go into next week. So let's take a look at that forecast. We're running a little bit behind schedule. But yeah, storms up there along this front in Montana into Sheridan where they've got that strong heating, and there's that bit of monsoon activity in the higher elevations of the western U.S. Going into tomorrow, here's the situation during the afternoon. Front moving through the Dakotas. We've got deep southerly flow from Texas all the way up into the Corn Belt. Saturday will bring some of the peak heat in the northwestern U.S., looking for highs of 105 at Boise and 104 at Salt Lake City. The all-time high there is 107. And we're also looking for a high of 107 at Winnemucca. The all-time high there is 109. We start knocking a few degrees off of those temperatures in the southwest, only looking for 113 at Phoenix, but still quite hot. And we're ratcheting up those precipitation chances in the Mogollon Rim, Tucson, southeastern Arizona, looking at some chances in the Sierras as well. Also looking for rain in the Reno and Carson City area as well, and in the mountains near Los Angeles as this pattern picks up steam. Another round of storms on the Texas coast. Houston once again getting battered with more thunderstorm activity, and they don't need it because they're trying to restore power. Numerous outages out there. And some rain chances may pick up in the Texas Great Bend area as well. SPC has a slight risk of severe thunderstorms across northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, and North Dakota ahead of this front, looking for the possibility of an MCS developing early Saturday. You can see that coming together up there up to the north, and the GFS has it sticking mostly to the Duluth area, but we could see development further down to the south. Then we go into Sunday. Rain chances increase substantially in southeastern Arizona, possibly some big storms by evening. There they are right there. Also storms in Colorado. Worse heat for the Central Plains on Sunday, looking for highs of 102 at Denver, maybe broken up by some thunderstorms. Looking for 110 degrees, close to 110, maybe 108, 109 at Hill City, with 108 at Goodland. Goodland located right there. The all-time high is 111. A slight risk of severe thunderstorms in Fargo, Grand Forks ahead of this warm front. Currently, it looks like an outflowish situation, but we may see a line come together. Heat wave across the southeastern U.S. Atlanta looking for 99 on Sunday. The hot spots will be Columbus, Georgia, Columbus, Mississippi, both of those at 101, and Columbia, South Carolina with 100. So the moral of the story, don't live in a town named after Chris Columbus if you hate the heat. Expansion of tropical moisture into the southeastern region, looking for significant rain chances on the Gulf Coast and in Florida. And rain chances also going up for the Great Lakes area as well. And we'll wind things up with the weather on Monday. Here comes another front, kind of an Alberta clipper, into the Midwest region. Looking for some fairly good chances of severe weather across Wisconsin, northern Illinois, into parts of Iowa and Minnesota for Monday. Could see bow echoes and some strong straight-line winds. Heat wave diminishes in Colorado, but still terrible in Kansas, looking for 108 at Salina, 102 at Wichita, and 105 at Colby. Oklahoma City creeping up to 100 degrees. DFW getting some of that 100 action as well. Heat wave continues in the Carolinas, kind of shifting east a little bit there, looking for 102 at Columbia and 100 at Augusta. And then going into midweek, we're looking for numerous storms in the Rockies, the Western Plains, western Kansas right there getting a cool down from that heat. Continued hot in Oklahoma City up to 102 at Enid. And we go into Wednesday, this front sags to the south, brings precip into the Ozarks, looks like a little bit less of it there in Texas, and rain once again for the Carolinas. And that brings us to the end of the map. Looks like a lot of rain in the eastern U.S. and dry out west, except for the southwestern deserts. And that will do it for this edition of Forecast Lab. Just a reminder, we do need your support if you want to see this program continue, and you can do that by going to our Patreon website, or you can pick up a book or software at this link. So please consider that. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday for the supporters and on Wednesday for everybody else. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.